Okay, everybody, I wanted to just do a quick video on this Auburn and Georgia game that we just went off not too long ago. And it was interesting because, Auburn was playing for an opportunity to win the SEC West and possibly get into the national championship game. They won the SEC championship game. They had a few other things go their way, but they lost today. And it wasn't because of their defense, I'll tell you that. Auburn defense today played outstanding. The Georgia offense did not have a touchdown the whole game. Auburn forced them and limited them to 2 field goals, even when their offense repeatedly uh, gave the Georgia offense the ball back after 3 and out, after 3 and out, after 3 and out. The Auburn offense had something like less than 30 yards for the whole second half, had no first downs the whole second half. The first possession was an interception, then it was punt, 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 punt. The Auburn defense played magnificent. Even when they got forced into their red zone, they still forced Georgia to kick a field goal. And so Kevin Steele and the Auburn defense deserves a lot of credit for what they were able to do today, even under the most pressing of situations with your offense not being able to hold on to the ball and keeping you tired and on the field the whole game. Now, speaking of the Auburn offense, we can't quite, well, first of all, let's give the Georgia defense a ton of credit for what they accomplished. Specifically, Maurice Smith, who was a former Alabama player who transferred to Georgia before the season started. And the Georgia defensive game plan was perfect, really, for this Auburn offense. Kirby Smart and Mel Tucker did a great job of devising the scheme. I'm pretty sure from all his experience of seeing Auburn at the end of the year at Alabama really played a part in that. Especially the little wrinkle that he added, which was blitzing the linebacker over the 2 guards. And whenever he did it, they got to Sean White and put pressure on him. And they did a great job of disrupting Auburn's their momentum and their style of play and got them behind the chains a little bit. And so they did a great job setting the edge and making sure the receivers didn't run too far after they caught the ball. Made it really hard for Auburn to get into a rhythm and get their offense going. Now, with that being said, you also have to mention that Sean White was just not the same today. His shoulder injury or whatever it is that he's been dealing with, it really bothered him today, and you can tell. He had 27 total yards passing the ball. That is atrocious, and it showed. You saw some of his throws. The ball didn't really get that far out. He had a little trouble getting the velocity on it sometimes. And that's not even all of it, really, because some of his receivers dropped passes that they should have caught too. And one that's on my mind is the one down the sideline where the receiver was falling, but the ball hit him in the hands. Sean White was a tough guy today, and he did all that he could to make sure that the Auburn got the job done, but he just really wasn't himself. So that played a part in their offensive ineptitude as well. But you also had to consider that Cameron Petway, their leading rusher, who is their inside rushing guy, the guy who brings the power to the team and runs the ball in the middle, he did not play, and they did not have the inside game. They tried to establish that inside game with Kerryon Johnson, but he's just not that type of back who can do that consistently throughout the game. And it showed later on as well, even though he almost had 100 yards rushing. So he did a great job there. It's just that they couldn't sustain that. And that really forced them to try to do more outside runs with Tuitt on the outside and a few other guys. And it just never worked out. Their offense was out of rhythm, and they could not establish anything. So, really, it wasn't that Georgia just flat out beat Auburn, but their defensive game plan was great. Their offense barely did anything, but they did just enough to get more points than Auburn. It's just that Auburn really couldn't score today. But their defense deserves a lot of credit. That's what made me inspired to make this video, because the Auburn defense played great. You got to give it up to them. So there we go. Now I'm going to continue watching these games. Clemson lost, and now I'm going to watch this USC Washington game, see what I can get some data on that. Thank you and attention.